In Chicago, he tried to go through a brick wall. In Pittsburgh, he got a game-winning greeting. He's Tony Pena of the Pirates. He and his teammates come to our town to try our team. Prism will be there for the Phillies and Pirates Tuesday at 7:30.
Baseball, the national pastime, a game of strength and skill, where the spirit of friendly competition settles every difference of opinion. With grace, beauty, and talent from east to west, get ready for Major League bloopers at their best.
A ball and a bat. Put them together, and you've got baseball. The only trouble is they give you a round ball and a circular bat, and then tell you you've got to hit it square. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Uecker, and these days I'm a broadcaster for the Milwaukee Brewers. But 20 years ago, I was a Major League ball player, a catcher as a matter of fact, and from behind home plate or up in the broadcast booth, I've been keeping my eye on this baseball, and I've seen it take a million crazy bounces. You know, the game's changed a bit since I first started playing. These days, ball players stand to make a fortune. When I got out of high school, I signed with the Milwaukee Braves for a very modest $3,000 bonus, which really aggravated my old man because he didn't have that kind of money to put out. When you play baseball, it helps to have a sense of humor. And as a career 200 hitter, believe me, I had a sense of humor. Fortunately, baseball is a sport that loves a good laugh, and for the next hour, we're going to take a look at some of the best laughs ever put together. Nobody will be spared, not even pitchers. You know, those guys with $1 million arms and the brains that, well, you just can't put a dollar mark on. Sometimes I used to think that if I hadn't been behind the plate holding up my glove, some of those guys wouldn't have known where to throw the ball. You know, an awful lot can happen in the seemingly simple act of a pitcher pitching and a batter batting. If you don't believe me, take a look at this.
The first thing the pitcher has to do is loosen up, stretch the muscles, get a good grip, and then let fly. But the real secret of success is good control. No matter where he throws, a pitcher has to be precise. And if his results are off, maybe it's time for him to check his footing. That can make a very big difference. And a smart pitcher will never cross up his catcher. And most importantly, a pitcher can help himself with his glove. But hey, if pitchers think they have it tough, how about those hitters? Sometimes they have trouble just getting from the dugout to the plate. And when a batter does step in, he's got to be loose, limber, and ready for action. And everybody knows the bat is supposed to be the game's most important offensive weapon. So a hitter always has to hang in there and never get down.
I mean, hanging on to a bat when you're hitting is not the easiest thing in the world to do. But I'll tell you one thing about baseball. It's the only endeavor in life where you can fail 7 out of 10 times and still be considered a success. I mean, to hit 300, sure, that's great. But I'll tell you one thing about my average. It was so low that I used to have to tell my family they did it in alphabetical order. Aaron at the top, Uecker at the bottom. But not hitting much did have its advantages. For instance, I didn't have to worry that much about base running. Base running is one of my strong suits. Not really, but here's why it was a strong suit for me. If you're not the swiftest guy in the world, there are some things that you can do to really help yourself along. For instance, myself, I used to wear wingtips with spikes on them. Another big thing for you, if you're not the kind of a guy who runs that fast and your coach is on you about getting a bigger lead off first, here's what you do. If you wear a size 10, put a size 10 on one foot and about a size 16 on the other to make it look like you're really getting a huge lead. And here's the big one. This is the one that keeps the crowd off your back when you don't run good. The ability to knock your hat off when you're moving so it looks like you are really wide open. And I'm going to do it in slow motion for you, and watch my hand action. Here I come.
I think it's time to look at base running in a different light. No matter where you run, you're heading for trouble.
Well, I don't know why I came here tonight. I got the feeling that something ain't right. I'm so scared in case I fall off my chair. And I'm wondering how I'll get down the stairs. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, I'm stuck in the middle with you. And I'm wondering what it is I should do. It's so hard to keep the smile from my face. Losing control, yeah, I'm all over the place. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. When you started out with nothing and you found that you're a self-made man. And your family all come crawling, slap you on the back and say, please, please. Yeah, I don't know why I came here tonight. I got the feeling that something ain't right. I'm so scared in case I fall off my chair. And I'm wondering how I'll get down the stairs. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Man, I like to see those guys squirrel their way out of that one. All that running around. I get tired just looking at those guys. Anyway, now it's time for a little mental exercise. We've put together a few brain busters for you to tickle and test your baseball IQ. So grab yourself a paper and a pencil, and we're going to get ready to go. We've put together 3 sets of questions and answers to be used throughout the show. When the whole quiz is finished, add up your scores and check them out against our chart. Rate yourself all the way from Bush Leaguer to Hall of Famer. All right, let's see how you do in round 1. And be careful. Look out for a change of signs. We may throw you a curveball.
In the '69 World Series, Ron Swoboda of the Mets made this famous catch. Now the first question is, who hit the ball? Here's a clue. He was a star for the Baltimore Orioles, and his name was Robinson. Was it Frank Robinson or Brooks Robinson, whose sure hit was turned into an out? Write down the answer, either Frank or Brooks. Now, before we leave that outfield in Shea Stadium, let's look at 2 more plays. This one came with 2 men on and 2 outs. And this one came 3 innings later with the bases loaded and 2 out as well. Another spectacular run-saving grab. Question, who made the catches? Our next question comes from the classic 6th game of the 1975 World Series. It's all tied up in the 12th, and the Cincinnati Reds are 1 victory away from the championship. But Boston stays alive with 1 swing of the bat, a game-winning home run that just stays fair. Now the question is, who hit the home run? And if you think that's too easy for you, earn a bonus point and name the Cincinnati pitcher who threw the ball that landed in the net and put Fenway Park in a frenzy. Lawrence Peter Yogi Berra was one of baseball's greatest clutch hitters, and he's the subject of our next question. Until recently, Yogi held the Major League record for home runs by a catcher with 313. Can you name the slugger who surpassed Yogi as the all-time home run hitting backstop? Here's a hint. It wasn't me. And our final question in this set deals with Rickey Henderson, the Oakland A's Bay Area birder. Through 90 games this year, Henderson had stolen an incredible 86 bases, a rate that, if he stays healthy, could lead him to more than 150 stolen bases this year. With every step that he takes, Rickey Henderson threatens the old mark of 118 in a season. Can you name the ball player who still holds the stolen base record? Okay, those were the questions. Now check your answers. New York's Ron Swoboda made the great catch on Baltimore third baseman Brooks Robinson. And the Met who goes so fast to his left and his right is Tommy Agee. Boston's Carlton Fisk was the home run hero. I'm sure you had that. But the pitcher, it was Pat Darcy. Yogi Berra still holds the record for the most home runs by an American League catcher. But the Major League mark now belongs to Cincinnati's Johnny Bench. Since joining the Reds in 1967, Bench has hit 324 home runs in the more than 1,700 games he's played in as a catcher. And finally, Rickey Henderson is on the fast track to a new single-season stolen base record. And the man he's about to overtake is former St. Louis Cardinals star Lou Brock, who still holds the mark of 118.
Okay, so you said that round of questioning wasn't too tough, right? Well, don't get too excited because the next round is going to be a lot harder. But I'll tell you something about the mental aspect of the game. I never worried about it. I used to do the thinking for everybody. And I'll tell you something else about some catchers. There were a few that had their bells rung one time too many. There was this one guy, I remember, with the New York Mets. Boy, he was a beauty. You know, most of us give signs like this, in here. Well, he gave them out here, like this, so he could remember what he called too. Now, I'm not telling you catching is not a demanding part of baseball, but I'll tell you another thing. Once those guys put this mask on, a lot of them should have never taken it off. Man, I'm telling you, that last piece reminded me of my spring training with the Braves 20 years ago. You know the biggest problem I had in spring training? Not finishing until August. But I'll tell you what I really used to do in spring training. I used to try to figure ways in and out of road hotels after curfew. But one of my biggest thrills came in spring training, a bases-loaded walk to force in the winning run to win our first inter-squad game. But enough of my memories. Now it's time to test yours again.
Our second round begins with a question regarding Whitey Ford. In 1961, the Yankees southpaw topped off the best season of his career by breaking the record of 29 2/3 scoreless innings pitched in World Series play. Our first question is, who held the consecutive scoreless inning record that Whitey Ford broke? In 1968, Denny McLain of Detroit became the first 30-game winner in the majors since the heyday of Dizzy Dean. McLain led the Tigers to the World Series, but in that series, another Tiger pitcher stole the spotlight. Who was McLain's teammate that shut down the St. Louis Cardinals so effectively in 1968? In 1964, Bobby Richardson of the Yankees set a World Series record by getting 13 hits, even though his team lost. 4 years later, Richardson's record was tied, oddly enough, by a man who played against Richardson when the record was set. Who was the player who tied Richardson's record for hits in a World Series? Jimmy Fox, the great Philadelphia A's slugger, was the first man ever to win the Most Valuable Player award twice, doing it in 1932 and 1933. Others have done it since, but can you name the only man to ever win the MVP award in both leagues? In 1954, the Cleveland Indians won 111 games thanks largely to 4 outstanding pitchers. Early Wynn, Mike Garcia, Bob Lemon, and the man known as Rapid Robert, Bob Feller. Now, some people think that those Indian pitchers were all 20-game winners, but actually, only Wynn and Lemon won that many. In baseball history, only one team has ever had 4 20-game winners. Can you name that team? In 1955, 20-year-old Al Kaline became the youngest player ever to win a batting title. That season, Kaline averaged .340 and also belted 27 homers while picking up 102 RBIs. Although Kaline went on to hit over 308 more times, he never won another batting crown. Now for the 6th and final question of this set, who was the oldest man to ever win a batting title? Okay, now it's time for the answers. Babe Ruth was a pitcher with Boston when he set the World Series mark that was later broken by Whitey Ford. But don't feel bad for the Babe. He still had some records waiting for him in New York. Mickey Lolich of the Tigers stole the spotlight from 31-game winner Denny McLain in the 1968 World Series. McLain faltered in the series, winning once and losing twice, while Lolich won all 3 of his starts, including the final game. In that same World Series of 1968, Bobby Richardson's record of 13 hits was matched by high-flying Cardinal Lou Brock, who could hit and steal bases with equal grace. In 1961, Frank Robinson won the Most Valuable Player award in the National League as a Cincinnati Red. 5 years later, he became the first player ever to win that honor in both leagues when his Triple Crown year led the Baltimore Orioles to a pennant. The Orioles were pennant-bound again in 1971, becoming the only team in history with 4 20-game winners. Jim Palmer went 20-9, as did Mike Cuellar. Pat Dobson was 20-8, and Dave McNally went 21-5. And finally, we come to Ted Williams, the oldest man ever to win a batting crown. Williams hit .328 in 1958 when he was 40 years old. That was 17 years after he hit .406, but just 1 season after he had hit a stunning .388 at the ripe old age of 39.
Yeah, Ted Williams. What a swing. The splendid splitter. Teddy ball game. .344 lifetime average, 2-time most valuable player, and a member of baseball's Hall of Fame. Always kept his eye on the ball. Picture-perfect swing. Well, it was something like that. Anyway, Williams stopped by the batting cage one day in spring training where I was taking some extra batting practice. He paid me a pretty nice compliment. After watching me hit a few, he said, "Uke, with that swing, I'd join Woody Herman." Well, I didn't exactly agree with Williams at the time, but I'll tell you something else about Ted Williams. He was always surrounded by controversy. He was getting into it with the Boston press and the Boston fans many, many times. But controversy has been around baseball forever. Just ask the umpires. I mean, this goes back to the first caveman, when he picked up his first club and hit his wife for a double to right center field. People just don't see eye to eye.
So let's leave it alone, 'cause we can't see eye to eye. There ain't no good guy, there ain't no bad guy. There's only you and me, and we just disagree. Ooh, 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 oh, oh, I'm going back to a place that's far away. How about you? Have you got a place to stay? Why should I care when I'm just trying to get along? We were friends, but now it's the end of our love song. So let's leave it alone, 'cause we can't see eye to eye. There ain't no good guy, there ain't no bad guy. There's only you and me, and we just disagree. Ooh, 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 oh, oh. So let's leave it alone, 'cause we can't see eye to eye. There ain't no good guy, there ain't no bad guy. There's only you and me, and we just disagree. Ooh, 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 oh, oh, oh.
Ball players like Lou Piniella can make things mighty tough for an umpire. But have you ever wondered how you might do as a man in blue? Okay, here's your chance. On this play, is the runner out or is he safe? The ground level camera clearly shows that the runner was out by a step. Now I'm sure you got that one. But keep your eye on this next play from the 1970 World Series. Watch the catcher. Did he make the tag? The umpire says he did. But hey, this one is tough. Let's go over it again, and we'll even listen to what's being said. Bernie Carbo's the runner. Ellie Hendricks, the catcher. The umpire is Ken Burkhart, and here comes a very unhappy manager, Sparky Anderson. Now remember that, because Burkhart keeps calling him Danny.
Get out of there! Get out of there! You were right here, and he knocked you over and went around. There's no way possible, Kenny. There's no way you can even see the play.
Danny, I said he tagged him.
How could you see if he tagged him, Kenny, when you were knocked out? Huh? Tell you, no. Kenny, you were knocked down. How can you call him out?
I said he tagged him. Now, Danny, that's it.
The pictures won't show that. I promise you that.
All right, now let's take one more look. On this play, everybody's wrong. The catcher doesn't have the ball in his glove. The runner misses the plate, and the umpire's out of position. Ah, well, no one said this is easy. Now let's try another. Lou Brock leads off second as Detroit's Willie Horton sets in left field during the 1968 World Series. On a single to left, Brock comes all the way around trying to score. Is Brock safe or is he out? Looks like there might be a shadow of a doubt on this one. The Cardinals are furious, but if you agreed with the umpire and called Brock out, you made a pretty good decision. Watch the replay. Catcher Bill Freehand does an excellent job of blocking the plate. Brock never touched home, and he's out. All right, you're going good on those plays at the plate, but now try this one. Bud Harrelson's at third in the 1973 series against Oakland. There's a fly to left, and Harrelson is going to tag up and try to score. You be the ump. Is he in there? Did Harrelson score, or was he tagged out? Manager Yogi Berra knows what he thinks, but umpire Augie Donatelli doesn't necessarily agree.
Where'd he tag him? Where'd he tag him? You missed the damn thing.
You can't kick me out for your hat.
You know you did. What are you expecting him to fly? It's a damn joke.
Come up, straight up with the glove.
Where'd he touch him? Where'd he touch him? Where did he touch him?
Right here on the...
Well, the expletive may be deleted, but the replay won't be. Even in slow motion, it's hard to tell. But umpire Donatelli called the runner out, and not even the great Willie Mays can change his mind. Okay, here's a famous play from the 1975 World Series between the Red Sox and the Reds. Was there interference by the batter on the catcher? Let's listen as Red Sox manager Darrell Johnson and the umpires discuss the matter.
And you went to call it. You tell me what you were calling and when he did it.
On a play like that...
I'm telling you, the man interfered with that man on the play. I'm telling you, I want to see a man down here. Come here. You mean to tell me that you can't help him on a play like that when he hasn't even touched the ball? And the man was interfering with him?
Listen to me, there's no interference when a ball is hit and the catcher goes for the ball and the batter tries to get out of the box.
And the batter tries to get out of the way. He was all over the catcher.
Now, when the batter comes out of the box after hitting the ball and the catcher makes a play, there is no interference.
I'm going to tell you something. That's not the way the play went. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you one thing. I don't know what you're going to make a ruling on that, but I want you to explain exactly what you were looking at when you called the play.
Okay, the guy, the ball was hit, he was moving for the ball, and the runner was moving to first.
The runner was all over the catcher in there.
I can't help that. It happened right there.
I'll tell you one thing. It's a lousy operation, and you and I know it right now. It's a lousy operation.
The rule book says that interference in this situation must be intentional, and when a batter has contact with the catcher as the catcher is fielding the ball, there is almost always no violation. The umpire ruled no interference, and you were right if you agreed with him. Knowing what we do about interference, let's look at this play from the 1978 World Series. It looks like an easy double play for the Dodgers, but Reggie Jackson got in the way. Did Jackson interfere? Manager Tommy Lasorda seems to think so. Did Reggie allow himself to be hit intentionally? Well, only Reggie knows for sure. The umpires said he didn't, but you'll never convince Tom Lasorda of that.
He stood right in the face. That's a damn crime, Marty.
Finally, last year's series between the Dodgers and Yankees had its controversy too. Did Dusty Baker make the catch, or was it a hit that scored a run? In other words, was it a catch or a trap? That's an umpire's judgment call. But right on cue, Tommy Lasorda, who's been there before, is ready with his judgment.
He caught the ball. That's what I got. He caught the ball. You weren't even out to the stand. He knows whether he caught the ball.
caught her.
All right, then he thinks he did. Okay, but haven't you ever missed one? Well, then you missed that one. Are you going to see it on the... Are you going to see it?
How can you see that?
You're going to see it later on. I'll tell you what, you're going to see it on the TV, and you'll see it.
Hit the ground.
Huh? That ball did not hit the ground.
Even with the replay, it's still a tough call. But in the umpire's judgment, Dusty Baker trapped the ball. If you ruled a hit, you were right. Just don't tell Tom Lasorda about it.
You know, the life of an umpire isn't easy. We all know that. But sometimes they get in their rips, too. This story takes place way back in the Dodger days in Brooklyn. They had a woman fan there who used to heap abuse on the umpires day and night. I mean, she really used to punish them. Jocko Conlon one day was working home plate, and he called an inning-ending third strike on a Dodger player. The place nearly exploded, but the boos quieted down between innings. But as they did, up popped this woman. And in the loudest voice you ever wanted to hear, she said in Brooklynese, "Hey, Conlon, if you was my husband, I'd feed you poison." Well, Jocko Conlon turned, walked up to the screen, pointed right in her face and said, "Madam, if you were my wife, I'd take it." Well, not all umpires are masters of the one-liners. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, most of them are lucky to string a sentence together. Just kidding, fellas. Actually, you don't need to say anything to get your point across. Just look at all the baseball mascots, like the Chicken or the Philly Fanatic. They're a part of a baseball clowning tradition that goes back a lot farther than you might think.
In the early 1900s, pitcher Nick Altrock was a 20-game winner, but Nick's best delivery was his own brand of screwball humor. Altrock later teamed up with another pitcher, Al Schacht, who carried on a long career of fame and frolic as the Clown Prince of Baseball. Today, that title belongs to another ex-pitcher who keeps packing the parks. His name is Max Patkin. As a baseball comedian, Patkin carries the biggest stick around, and he has been at it for a long time now.
I've done over 4,000 ballparks. Now think of this, better than 4,000 in 35 years. And I have never missed a show in all those years, 35 years of one-nighters. When you stop and think, that's a lot of... I went by buses and trains in those days. You should have seen me sitting in some train station in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, or down in Vicksburg, or out somewhere in the Midwest, or chasing the buses across the desert after my luggage that was, you know, got put on the wrong bus. This is before a lot of cities had airports, and I made those towns.
And he's still making them. In the majors and the minors, the Clown Prince keeps on keeping on.
Did you see that? She! Ooh! Watch this, I'll show you the way I used to pitch.
For the master of the old soft shoe, there's no business like shoe business, and the fruits of frivolity are as sweet as the memories of days gone by.
This particular day, Joe DiMaggio hit a home run off me, and from the pitcher's mound, picture me now, 150 pounds, looked like a nose on the end of a lollipop stick. I wasn't too pretty in those days. Picture now me coming off the mound as Joe DiMaggio with that beautiful gait that he has, Mr. Coffee, rounding first base. And here I picked him up as he rounded, and here's 10 to 15,000 servicemen screaming as I followed him around the bases as he came into home plate. Now, this is an ad-lib, had to be. Here's the whole team come out of the dugout, out of their bullpen, came to home plate, shook Max Patkin's hand, who threw the home run pitch, and Joe DiMaggio went back to the dugout, empty dugout, and they walked me back to the mound, patting me on the back all the way. And I think that baseball is bobbing around in the South Pacific.
From the South Pacific to the North Atlantic, old Max has been bobbing around ever since. Armed with clean humor, Patkin has made comedy his bag, and a routine like this never fails to take off. But for well-traveled Max, a new stage always awaits.
I would like to go to Japan and do my act over there. I've worked in every country there is already. I've worked in Venezuela. I've done Puerto Rico. I was in Cuba before Castro, you know, at that time. In fact, he was there the day I was there. And they got 11 runs when I was coaching in Cuba. I could have run. I'd have been more popular than him at that time. But then he took over a year later, and I never been back to Cuba since.
Now that's saying a mouthful. Most audiences find Patkin's humor very refreshing, and although he may not be your country club gentleman, on the diamond, Max Patkin still stands as the clown prince of baseball.
I like being the clown prince of baseball. It's got a nice ring to it.
Nowadays, standing ovations are more and more common around ballparks, and not just for home runs or shutouts. There's a whole slew of comic talent out there led by Major League mascots like the Chicken. Night after night, the Chicken never lays an egg, but he'll tell you he's just a clucky guy. Then there's the graceful Philly Fanatic. He's a bird of a different feather with a big green nose for trouble. Fredbird of St. Louis is a master of the seventh inning stretch, even if he is a Cardinal who's gone a little bit batty. In Chicago, Ribby helps pull up the White Sox with his own style of slap-happy humor. In Pittsburgh, the Pirate Parrot is no Pollyanna when he's going for a gag. And in Montreal, the Expos Yuppie keeps the crowd laughing in 2 languages. Well, their humor may not always be divinely inspired, but Major League mascots know what they have to do.
Make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. Don't you know everyone wants to laugh? My dad said be an actor, my son, but be a comical one. They'll be standing in lines for those old honky-tonk monkey shines. Or you could study Shakespeare and be quite elite, and you could charm the critics and have nothing to eat. Just slip on a banana peel, the world's at your feet. Make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. Make 'em laugh. Don't you know everyone wants to laugh? My grandpa said go out and tell 'em a joke, but give it plenty of hope. Make 'em roar, make 'em scream. Take a fall, but a wall split a seam. You start off by pretending you're a dancer with grace. You wiggle till they're giggling all over the place. And then you get a great big custard pie in the face. Make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. Make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh.
Baseball certainly has a weird collection of mascots, but the game's most unique cheerleader had to be in Tacoma last year. Tacoma's mascot is a tiger. Well, you say, nothing strange about that. Okay, but their manager is a guy named Ed Noddle, and in the middle of a close game, Noddle gets into an argument with the umpires and gets the old heave-ho. Well, Ed wasn't about to head to the locker room for a shower. Instead, he calls the tiger over, and they both go to the locker room. About 10 minutes later, there's the mascot on the field near the bullpen talking with the ball players, watching the game very intently. Well, the umpires knew something was up when they saw the tiger flash a couple of signs with the bases loaded. Sure enough, Noddle had dressed up in the costume, and he was thrown out of the game for a second time.
Well, Ed Noddle did what he could, but as every manager knows, sometimes things just don't fall into place.
I see that worried look upon your face. You've got your troubles, I've got mine. She found somebody else to take your place. You've got your troubles, I've got mine. Got to have lost my love today, and all of my dreams have flown away. So forgive me if I seem unkind. You've got your troubles, I've got mine. I'd help another time, another place. But you've got your troubles, I've got mine.
All right, let me have one here. Let me rip this baby off. All right, well, as Billy Lowe's of the Dodgers once said, when he muffed a ground ball, he lost in the sun. You know, I don't think there's a player ever played this game of baseball that hasn't kicked one in front of a sellout crowd. You know when you see those infielders doing this after they kick one? They're trying to dig a hole to get into it. But really, it's about time we take a different look at errors. And with the help of some of the finest outfielders in the major leagues, this is our tribute to the art of the blooper.
Now let's move from the tough breaks to the tough questions, the third and final round of our quiz. Yankee Billy Martin is well remembered for his key catch against the Dodgers in the 1952 World Series. But can you remember the batter who popped out to Martin? Now here are a few questions about some guys who came through in a pinch. In the fourth game of the 1947 World Series, the Yankees' Bill Bevins was within 1 out of a no-hitter when Cookie Lavagetto's pinch hit not only broke up the no-hitter, but won the game for Brooklyn. Your question: name the pinch runner who scored the winning run. For our third question, we turn from the pandemonium of Ebbets Field to a rarity at Fenway Park. In more than 17 seasons, Ted Williams averaged .344 and batted under .300 only once in his career. But even Williams once gave way to a pinch hitter. Can you name the only man ever to pinch hit for Ted Williams? Harry the Hat Walker was another great hitter. In 1947, he led the National League in batting with a .363 average. But that season, Walker was pinch hit for once, by a pitcher at that. Who was the pinch-hitting pitcher? We all know that the most famous home run in baseball history was hit by Bobby Thompson, and that it won the National League pennant for the New York Giants in 1951. And we all know that the pitcher was Brooklyn's Ralph Branca. But our fifth and final question is, who was the next scheduled hitter? who was on deck when Bobby Thomson hit his shot heard round the world? All right, here are the answers. Billy Martin caught Jackie Robinson's pop fly to end the 7th inning of the 7th game of the 1952 World Series with the bases loaded. In the 4th game of the 1947 World Series, the winning run was scored against Bill Bevins and the New York Yankees by Dodger pinch runner Eddie Mixus. Ted Williams' only pinch hitter was Carroll Hardy. The Red Sox once came from way behind in the 9th inning, and Williams had already gone to the locker room, so Hardy pinch hit his way into history. And the pitcher who once pinch hit for batting champion Harry Walker was Schoolboy Rowe, who was a pretty fair country hitter with a .263 lifetime average. And if Bobby Thomson had not hit his game-ending home run against the Brooklyn Dodgers, the next scheduled batter was rookie Willie Mays. Now, just to show you that we're not unfair, here's another bonus question. Zoilo Versailles was one of just 3 American League shortstops to win the Most Valuable Player award. Name the other 2 American League shortstop MVPs. One award winner excelled in 1948 when he batted .355 and led the Cleveland Indians to a championship. His name, Lou Boudreau. The other shortstop batted .324, always hustled in the field and on the base pass, and was known to New York Yankee fans as the Scooter. Everyone else knew him as Phil Rizzuto, the American League Most Valuable Player in 1950.
Okay, it's time to add up your score and see how you did and how you rate as determined by our panel of baseball experts. If you correctly answered 1 of 4 questions, you are a Bush Leaguer, which entitles you to a 16-hour bus ride from Elmira to Slippery Rock. If you answered none correctly, don't call us, we'll call you. If you answer 5 to 8 questions correctly, you are an honorary bat boy, which entitles you to take Gaylord Perry's sweatband to the dry cleaners. If you answer 9 to 12 correctly, you will soon be presented with the entire collection of Howard Cosell's greatest hits. Now, if you've answered 13 to 16 questions correctly, that means you are a superstar, which entitles you to a free lesson on how to wash and wax your Rolls BMW or VW from Reggie Jackson. If you got all the questions correct, that means you are now in baseball's Hall of Fame. You know, I used to dream about the Hall of Fame when I was sitting in the dugout. Ah, the dugout. I love it. With the right exposure these days, there's no telling where a fella might end up.
They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make a big star out of me. We'll make a film about a man that's sad and lonely. And all I gotta do is act naturally.
Well, I bet you I'm gonna be a big star. Might win an Oscar, you can't never tell. The movie's gonna make me a big star, 'cause I can play the part so well.
Oh, well, look who's here. I wish this remote control would...
Well, I hope you'll come and see me in the movies. Then I'll know that you will plainly see the biggest fool that ever hit the big time. And all I gotta do is act naturally.
Should every greater man use grease and formula? If he wants to get what I get, he should.
Bravo.
The movie's gonna make me a big star, 'cause I can play the part so well.
And OmniSearch lets you find your favorite. And OmniSearch lets you find your favorite. On my new Panasonic home video recorder OmniVision, I forgot you. Sorry. That was good. Yeah. I know that was good.
And all I gotta do is act naturally.
Can I have your autograph, Mr. Mercer? For my husband?
And now even the clubs are getting into the act.
There may be no greater thrill in sports than the crack of a bat and the roar of a crowd as a small cowhide-covered ball hurtles a distant fence. It's baseball. Seattle Mariners baseball in the Kingdome.
I was just here looking at this picture of my old schoolmate, Frank Robinson. We went to the Marconi School of Broadcasting together, and you won't believe what he's doing now. He's the manager of the San Francisco Giants. Can you believe it?
Walking Fuzz. Yeah. You're playing Jim Rice of the Red Sox. So? You worried?
Nah.
But you're playing him more than once.
Hey, thanks.
I'm John Kiley, and I've played organ here at Fenway Park for over 20 years. I've never heard such unharmonious things being said about our team. These are sensitive human beings. Hit it, boys. Feeling, whoa, 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 feeling.
A reserve seat, please.
Right.
Oh.
And I suppose you came out here just to sit in your hands.
No,
Okay, Armison's up 3-1. Let's hear it.
Hey, go, Tony.
Come on, talk it up.
Out of the way, Tony.
Let's hear some chatter.
Way to watch him, Tony.
Come on.
This guy's got nothing, Tony. Make him pitch to you. That's not an arm.
Okay.
That's a noodle. That's
Hey, we'll give you a tryout.
The pitcher throws the ball out of the batter. Then the batter hits the ball way far away. Then he goes running up here to first base. No, first base over here. Listen, I don't have time to explain the whole game to you now. But if you come out Sunday to watch the Giants beat the Dodgers, and you're 14 years of age or under, you get to have absolutely free of charge this beautiful T-shirt.
Hey, Whitaker and Trammell, what makes you so sure Billy Martin won't give you any trouble?
Oh, just a feeling.
Swung, Billy. Of course, you have a much better vantage point than I.
You want to appeal it? Go ahead.
That won't be necessary, Ron. Your word is good enough for me. If you said he went around, I'm sure he went around. My mistake, my mistake, my mistake.
Billy was a good boy, a quiet boy. He stayed out of trouble. He was a shy child who was polite to everybody. I remember he used
Mother,
to come over
don't remember too good anymore.
There's been a little heat on the home team this season at Fenway Park. It almost makes you want to run away from home.
Hey, Eck, how many miles per gallon in this thing?
City or highway?
The game starts at 7:35 and not a moment before because, as the Mariners have always said, there will be no game before it's time.
This is Tom Pachorka of the Seattle Mariners, inviting everybody to come on out to the Kingdome on August 23rd for Mariners Funny Nose Glasses Night. Be the first in your neighborhood to have...
Tom, I'm sorry. August 23rd is not Funny Nose Glasses Night. It's Jacket Night, Tom.
Jacket Night?
Yes, every kid 14 and under gets an official Mariners vinyl jacket free, Tom.
Jacket? No nose.
No funny nose glasses, no. I'm sorry.
What am I going to do with 30,000 pairs of funny nose glasses?
That's your problem, Tom.
Well, even though the Mariners traded Tom Pachorg to the White Sox, they decided to try his idea on for size. And one night in May this year, the entire Kingdome underwent a facelift. Well, you should have seen some of these people before they got to the ballpark. Even the ball players got into the swing of things. There's no disguising it. Baseball has really become a summer spectacle. But no matter how you look at it, the national pastime passes out the laughter to everybody in equal measures. Keep your eye on the ball long enough and you're going to see some shake, rattle, and rolling past everybody on the field. So thank you for joining us, and take it from me, Bob Uecker. Sooner or later in the game of baseball, everybody plays the fool.
Okay, so your heart's broken. You sit around moping, crying, crying. You say you even thinking about dying? Well, before you do anything rash, dig this. Everybody plays the fool sometimes. There's no exception to the rule. Listen, baby, it may be factual, maybe cruel. I ain't lying. Everybody plays the fool. How can you help it when the music stops to play and your ability to reason is swept away? Oh, heaven on earth is all you see. You're out of touch with reality, and now you cry. But when you do, this time around someone cries for you. Everybody plays the fool sometimes. They use your heart just like a tool. Listen, baby, the man will tell you so is true. I won't say it again, and everybody plays the fool.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Gray. The Phillies lost this afternoon to the Montreal Expos, and that's putting it mildly. A 9-2 blowout as the Expos got some revenge for their 3 previous losses at the Vet. For the Phils, it's now on to Chicago for a 3-game series with the Cubs. I'll have the highlights of today's game at 9:30. In golf, Ray Floyd is hot. He fired a 7-under par 63 in the first round of the PGA Championships in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the temperature was in the 100s. Bob Gilder is 3 back at 66. I'll have the entire leaderboard, the baseball scoreboard and highlights, an update from the Eagles training camp, including an interview with Charlie Johnson, a bird who wants to be let out of Dick Vermeil's cage. That and much more on the 9:30 edition of Prism Extra. I'm Jim Gray. Stay tuned for the movie Choo Choo and the Philly Flash. Enjoy the show. I'll see you afterwards.